Hey guys, I'm Combat Craig, and here's a tip to avoid getting denied when you file your VA disability claim for anxiety disorder. In order to establish service connection for anxiety disorder or generalized anxiety disorder, you need to be very specific about how you plan to establish service connection. You need to determine this up front so you don't end up with something like this, where you went for a direct service connection claim and it ended up coming back with a denial letter, and they're saying it's a pre-existing condition because you were running your mouth about your childhood in your C&P exam. You need to make sure you have a current diagnosis, current symptoms, and a nexus explaining how you're planning to establish service connection: direct, secondary, presumptive, or pre-existing. If you don't establish that, then something like this could happen to you, where you're planning on a secondary or a direct, and then they flip it around and say, oh, this is pre-existing. The best way to go if you've been out for longer than a year or so is a secondary service connection claim. You must specify that your anxiety is caused by another service-connected disability, and you're going to need a medical nexus letter from a doctor that explains the relationship between the two. If you need a doctor to write the nexus for you, you can use this email address right here. And in the subject line, you could say, I need a nexus for my VA disability claim for anxiety disorder. If you hire a VSO that uses a spray and pray method, you're going to end up with something like this. The VA finds that you had anxiety before you even went into the service based on what you told the C&P examiner about your childhood. So this isn't about they have medical evidence and you were on anxiety meds or you had symptoms when you were a kid. This is all about when you go into your C&P exam and they ask you about your childhood and you're like, I was anxious once when I was 13. Boom, now you have a pre-existing condition. Do not talk about your childhood if you're trying to get service connection for a claim for something that happened in the military. Childhood was great. I don't give a shit what actually happened to you. You need to tell them your childhood was good. It has nothing to do with it. Anything that happened when you were a kid before the service, it was beaver cleaver. If you're trying to establish service connection for anything, I would just leave your childhood out of it. They ask you about your childhood so they could deny your claim based on pre-existing conditions, even if there's absolutely no medical evidence to support this theory. Your own words are enough for a C&P examiner to skew the facts of your claim and then a VA rater to take your direct service connection and then turn it into a pre-existing claim like this one. Let's take a look at this decision letter so I can show you what I'm talking about. Service connection for generalized anxiety disorder. The evidence shows that generalized anxiety disorder existed prior to service. The VA medical opinion found no link between your diagnosed medical condition and military service. You need to have three things. You need a current diagnosis, current symptoms, and a nexus. So they're saying here that there is no nexus. And it goes on to say on March 17, 2022, the examiner noted that during the exam conducted on January 5th, 2022, you described a long history of anxiety predating joining the military and described heightened periods of distress associated with major life events. And then it goes on to talk about how this is a pre-existing service connection claim when it's not. Once we had our C&P examiner get a hold of you and started talking about your childhood, they ask you the questions about your, pre-service history, mainly your childhood, to trip you up. So don't talk about your childhood. Childhood was fine. Moving on. If we go down to the favorable findings identified in this decision, it says the claimed issue existed prior to military service. During the medical exam conducted January 5th, 2022, you admitted to a long history of anxiety predating joining the military. That is not a favorable finding. That's what got this claim all screwed up. The claimed issue was treated during military service. Your service treatment records note mental health treatment on June 21st, 2019. You have been diagnosed with a disability. The exam conducted on January 5th, 2022 notes a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder. So as you can see here, they are not using any kind of other medical records from when you were younger. They are just using your word against you. If you want to check out another video about how to file a VA claim and navigate the VA claims process, check out right here. Make sure you're signed up for my boot camp at combatcraig.com. And if you need a VA disability lawyer, you might want to check out Hill and Ponton at hillandponton.com to see if they can help you out. And I'll see you in the next video.